a lot of CPAs I've met in real life that didn't take high school accounting ended up not being very strong with the fundamentals of bookkeeping. And bookkeeping's a really big part of this. What is up, you guys? Matt McKeever here, and so I'm currently driving down to Windsor, Ontario to meet up with my good buddy John, aka the King of Windsor from Seeded Developments. With me on this driving in fact, is Mit CPA, my good buddy. And so seeing how both Mit and myself are CPAs, we thought, why not share with maybe some of my audience members who are aspiring to become CPAs some tips, tricks, and just our personal experience and perspectives on becoming a CPA. So whether you're in high school, university, or currently actively articling to become a CPA, this video hopefully will help you out. So, Mit, before we get into the tips and tricks, just share with everyone kind of your experience as a CPA.
All right, sounds good. Hey everyone, so my name is Mit. I'm the owner of Mit CPA Professional Corporation. We're an accounting practice based out of Toronto and the GTA, servicing clients across southwestern Ontario. Prior to my accounting practice, I worked in the renewable power space, completing the accounting, finance, and administrative functions for wind turbine and solar panel project companies. Prior to that, I worked at accounting firms, I worked at a small accounting firm in North York, and prior to which I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers.
So my background becoming a CPA, I went to the University of Guelph-Humber, then moved on from that into working for BDO, articling there, got my CPA. I probably spent about just over 5 years, I think, at BDO. Then I switched into private industry, worked for a publicly traded pharmaceutical company, did that for 2 or 3 years, and yeah, that's kind of my background on becoming a CPA. So let's first start off with, I think, one of the questions a lot of young CPAs get hung up on. Does the university you attend matter? So what's your opinion first, Mit?
I think the university you go to can have an impact, but that's just like anything. Really, the universities across the board that are accredited by CPA Ontario have to follow a standard curriculum, so it really doesn't matter. But my recommendation is to go to a university that has a co-op option. So for example, I went to Brock University, and the reason I went there is I knew there was a co-op option. I know other universities also have co-ops or internships, and I found for myself and my other colleagues that worked at PwC and at the small firm that did the co-op option, it was very easy once you graduated and did the co-ops to know what you wanted to do and where to work. So my recommendation would be to go to a university that is accredited by CPA Ontario and has a co-op or internship option.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Essentially, from my perspective, it really doesn't matter what university you go to. However, when you're trying to get a job, the university you go to can maybe give you a leg up. You can get past that barrier, though, by interviewing well. But 100% agree with what Mit was saying about the co-op programs. Co-op is so powerful. So Mit went to a co-op program at Brock. I went to the University of Guelph-Humber. We didn't have a co-op program. And so that really slows you down on gaining practical, hands-on experience. And the thing is, university is great. It's going to give you the fundamental thinking processes and a lot of the theory, but you really don't learn a lot of the practical, hands-on experience, right? And so for myself, like, I really didn't know what becoming a CPA was until I got a job articling as a CPA. So the co-op is just fantastic because it's going to give you a slice of life, plus it adds towards your practical experience. And I'm not actually up to date, but I assume they still got to do like 30 months?
30 months, yes, but like they take out your vacation and everything, so it works out to about 3 years of experience.
Yeah, so definitely, you know, finding a co-op program, if you can get into one, will get you way ahead of the curve towards becoming a CPA. As well, it's just like a really easy end for your future placement, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you that depending on the university, you do get a better network or opportunity to connect with others or CPAs or partners at other accounting firms that work in the industry. But the way you mitigate that, and the way I did and a lot of my other colleagues that went to other universities such as Brock, is by getting involved in your university and in the clubs. So most people who go out, who end up graduating or getting jobs and all of that, is because they've learned to build personal connections in their networks, and that's through joining student organizations. So when I was in university, I was part of an organization called DECA. I was part of another organization called JDCC. I participated in a lot of business case competitions. So even when you go to interview, and in order to interview well, they ask you, what do you do? So if you were to just say, I went to school for accounting, so does everybody else across any university. So it doesn't matter if you went to Schulich, you went to Waterloo, or if you went to Harvard. If all you did was just purely school and you want to be a CPA, well, there's a lot of other people who are able to easily do well in the curriculum and also do so much more, whether it was by being like a leader in the student organization or being a participant and doing well. So it just shows that you're a more well-rounded person. And I think a lot of people end up forgetting that, you know, even though you're doing accounting and a job, a lot of people, and especially in accounting, you're going to spend a lot of time working with the other person. It's a lot of communication. And so they want to really see what kind of person you are. Are you a people person? Are you someone I can sit beside and work alongside for maybe 10 plus hours a day? Matt, maybe you can shed some light on your experience with that as well.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Mitt's saying. Getting active in the different communities and organizations at your university, particularly if they're business or accounting oriented, again, is very helpful when you get into that interview process. It just helps separate yourself just a little bit. As well, it shows that you're really engaged with becoming a CPA. So at the time, my university was like really brand new. It was a partnership between Guelph University and Humber College. And so we had no accounting organization. So in fact, myself and a handful of others set up an accounting, I forget what we called it now, but like whatever.
Like an accounting student association,
yeah,
something like that.
Something like that. And so it was just a great way to kind of show that you're serious, but again, a lot of the value that you're going to get from university beyond just some of the basic theory is really going to come down to the connections you make. So you need to really take advantage of it, because at the end of the day, you know, the reason that I think like schools like Waterloo or Wilfrid Laurier might give you a bit of a leg up, at least based on my personal experience when it comes to interviewing, is just there's a lot of CPA grads from those schools and they're very proud of the schools they went to. So if you happen to have went to the same school as them, you know, you have an instant bonding moment. However, if you're good at networking, or you just put in the effort to become good at networking, I think you can overcome a lot of those obstacles. So that would definitely be a tip of mine, that like just network like crazy in university and use it to the most. Like another thing was, I think you did the same, but so for myself personally, I participated in a bunch of different like case studies and different accounting competitions. And again, those were just great ways to show that we were serious about accounting, but you also got to network with a ton of other individuals that wanted to go on to become accountants as well. So those are going to be your future co-workers, potentially your future managers, or your future employees that you're managing. So again, just creating that network. Same within real estate investing. You guys hear me talking about all the time on my real estate channel about the importance of networking. And so the same thing holds true in becoming a CPA or a chartered accountant.
So I really want to echo that, not only when you're done graduating university and trying to get a CPA position or you're articling, but even when you're in university. So your network, even within university, people tend to say, I should probably focus on academics. Academics is what's going to get me that interview. Really, sure, that is a factor, but it's not the only factor. If you participate in a lot of these organizations and clubs and these case competitions, a lot of the recruiters from all the firms or industry will show up as judges or as panel members, and you'll have an opportunity to speak to them one-on-one. And once they see you coming to one of these events more often and they're able to make a personal connection with you and get to know who you are, when you apply for a job and you reach out and you actually apply online for a lot of these firms, you then can message the recruiter separately and say, hey, I remember I met you at so-and-so event. Let's sit down for a quick coffee and chat and talk about, you know, how I can fit into the culture at this company or at this firm.
Yeah, 100% agree. And in fact, the way I got my first job at BDO articling to become a CPA was through networking. It was really a unique situation, but had I not been networking and had I not made it known to like my personal network that I was striving to become a CPA, I might have never got that opportunity. So I would just really like young CPAs to step up, or aspiring CPAs to step up their networking game, because it's the connections and relationships you make that are going to last a lifetime, regardless of that one co-op term or your first position articling to become a CPA.
And it's better that you learn to do all the networking and building it now, because it just never stops. So even for myself, when I went from PwC to a small firm, it was actually one of my fellow Brock grads and my friend that recommended me over to the small firm. And then when I went from the small firm to Renewable Power, it was actually another buddy of mine, also from Brock University, who had been offered to interview there and was no longer interested, and was able to connect me. And even now, to this day, when I get accounting practice clients from accounting practice, or any other opportunities come up, it's usually through my network of other CPAs and other accountants that I've built from when I was in university. So a lot of people, again, as I've said before, a lot of people end up getting tied down focusing on academics, thinking it's the be-all, end-all. It isn't, and really building your network really helps. But I do recommend, and this is for a lot of students who are in maybe their first year or are already in university, is your first year in your accounting degree and accounting course is the easiest year ever. You're taking stuff that's repeated from high school. So grade 11, grade 12 accounting get repeated. If you've never taken an accounting course, I kind of recommend probably going online, seeing some YouTube videos and learning the basics of accounting. The reason why is your first year courses, for the most part in accounting, are a repeat of what you learned in high school. And if you actually take the time to maybe not party as much and just get your academics done in your first year, it's going to give you that academic advantage that you really want, by putting you ahead of the game. For example, my program that I was in, when we first started in our first year, the program started with about 300 people. By the end of our first year, the program became 150 people. And that's purely because, too many people were partying and not doing that well. And these are like courses that weren't that hard. If you just took the time to do it, you would fare just fine. Subsequently, what ended up happening though is in the second year is when you're actually eligible to interview and get that co-op placement. So immediately half the candidates just got cut from purely that. Some other individuals though were smart and smarter than me, in fact, and they started networking as even when they were just in the end of high school, and they actually got to go and help accounting practice in the summer, just doing some basic things like photocopying and scanning. But this allowed them to start an early co-op term immediately after their first year. This let them see and get the kind of experiences, know what it is that they're kind of doing in accounting practice, and just get something on their resume outside of their regular high school job. So this way, when they were going to go apply for accounting firms, if they weren't going back to that same organization, they had another professional job to be able to speak to. And that, again, came from networking.
Yeah, 100% agree. We can't emphasize enough the importance of networking. And one thing I left out was network with your professors. There's a ton of value to be had there. Most of them are going to have their CPA. Most of them are going to have came from industry or came from a public accounting background at some point in time, and they'll still know tons of people that are still in that field. And those can be huge gateways in, huge just kind of like hacks or cheats to let you really get ahead of everyone else, get ahead of the pack. And I got a lot of personal value from that as well, going through to become a CPA. So yeah, I think that that's just something really important. But another thing I want to touch upon that Mit mentioned was taking accounting in high school. If you're still in high school and you're thinking about becoming either a business major, like anything business related, but especially if you want to become an accountant, take an accounting course if your high school offers it. It was so helpful for myself. It's really just going to teach you a ton of bookkeeping. But one thing that I've found personally is a lot of CPAs I've met in real life that didn't take high school accounting ended up not being very strong with the fundamentals of bookkeeping. And bookkeeping's a really big part of it. And a lot of people get hung up on oh, I'm not good at math, so I can't be an accountant.
I think that's the funniest thing ever, of saying you need to be good at math. And honestly, I went into accounting because I was like, I'm good at math. I can do numbers.
Yeah.
If numbers just make sense to me, I should go do it. And I can tell you from all my years of experience now, knowing numbers is important, but actually a lot of my jobs were a lot of communication,
yeah,
both written and verbal.
Yeah, there's a lot more writing in accounting than people realize, and we'll actually get into that in a separate video, because I realize now I want to do a separate video on just should you become an accountant. But yeah, a lot of people get this mindset that you need to be good at math. I think it's a misconception, relative misconception at least. So that was just one more thing I wanted to hit home for you guys.
A lot of people in industry and practice use Microsoft Excel or calculators to do the math.
Get good at Microsoft Excel. That would be my number one tip.
Oh yeah, a real advantage, especially as a high school student or maybe a first year student, or maybe even a new grad looking to get a job. is take a Microsoft Excel course. There's a ton of free tutorials online. Just learn how to do, VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs, pivot tables, and if you can learn macros, SQL. If you can learn macros and SQL, you will be ahead of the curve in accounting by so many degrees. Like even now, I deal with clients who basically just type in numbers on Excel and still manually add it up at the bottom. And learn to use the different functions and utilities within Excel really sets you apart.
Yeah, Excel is a major part of being an accountant, or at least it was in my experience. So hopefully this video maybe gave you guys, shined a bit more light on the steps towards becoming an accountant. I guess one thing we didn't cover that we should, the actual interviewing process. So
I think that in itself could be a totally different video.
We'll make a separate video. So
if you guys have any questions or concerns of anything that we talked about or you think that we've missed, please comment below and Matt or I will get back to you on it.
Yeah, 100%. So smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel and want to see more stuff about becoming a CPA, or if you're interested in real estate investing, because a lot of my YouTube content's on myself becoming a real estate investor and how in fact I was able to retire at the age of 31 because of real estate investing. Until next time, remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point, guys? Thanks. Bye.